on Tuesday, January 27, 2026. I'd like to call the meeting to order and start with a roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Axelrod.
Present.
Commissioner Smith.
Present.
Commissioner Brown. Chair Freeman.
Here.
Vice Chair Way.
Here.
Commissioner Kleinhaus.
Yes.
And Commissioner Deng.
For the record, I know Commissioner Brown sent me an email. She is using the just cause provision to be virtual. Are we able, is she online already, or do we need to resend her the panelist link?
I can resend it to her, but she's not online at the moment.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. So now's the opportunity for public comments. For those who want to address the commission on non-agenda items, if there are any members of the public who are in person and would like to address the commission in person, please fill out a speaker card and submit to the clerk. If you're on Zoom, please raise your hand and the clerk will acknowledge your presence.
There are no speakers in person or on Zoom at this time.
Okay. Seeing done, we'll move on to our next item, which is agenda changes, additions, and deletions. Are there any requests for any changes or additions or deletions of the current agenda? Okay. Okay, next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes, and I believe we have two sets of minutes to approve, right? Correct? Okay, so the first, and we'll do them separately, correct? Am I correct in that?
However you would like.
Let's do
November 25th and December 16th.
It has to be separately.
They have to be
Okay.
separate
Yeah.
because I think we have new commissioners. Okay, let's get a approval of the minutes for the November 2026 meeting.
So moved.
We need a motion and a
I need
second.
a motion for the November 20, what day is that? I'm sorry,
25th.
25th. All right. I get a motion?
So moved.
Commissioner, oh, okay. Commissioner Brown,
Second.
sorry, Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Kleinhaus. Okay?
Okay. Commissioner Axelrod. Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Deng.
Aye.
Commissioner Kleinhaus.
Yes.
Vice Chair Way.
Your mic's off.
Abstain. I was absent.
And Chair Freeman.
Yes.
Motion passes. One abstain.
All right. Okay, I get a motion for the December meeting agenda.
So moved.
Okay. Commissioner Kleinhaus, I'm sorry, Commissioner Alkaright, and,
Second.
okay, Commissioner Smith.
Commissioner Deng.
Abstain.
Commissioner Kleinhaus.
Yes.
Vice Chair Way.
Yes.
Chair Freeman.
Yes.
Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Smith.
Yes.
And Commissioner Axelrod.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving right along. We'll start with the city official reports. Let's start with the, oh, I'm sorry. It's all right.
Hello, Chair. I snuck
That's
in.
okay.
If you wouldn't mind, I just arrived. I'm late. I apologize. I'm pulling myself together.
No, you're good.
Would it be
You're
possible
good.
to put a
We'll
report
start
before mine?
with,
Thank you so
We'll
much.
start with the city for the department report. Sarah, you ready? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
While that's being pulled up for the presentation, good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Parks and Rec Commissioners. For the Parks and Rec Departmental Report, we want to first start out by recapping. The City of Palo Alto had a partnership with East Palo Alto and the Youth Community Services held in honor of life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day that was in honor on Monday, January 19th. This was held from 2 to 4 p.m. At a community gathering. If you advance to the next slide, you can see some more photos of Mitchell Park Community Center. This was extremely well attended. There were speakers, performers, prizes, and youth-led activities. If you advance to the next slide, earlier this month on January 14th, we showed the Smurfs movie, which is part of the Coverly activation. This was the last movie of the 3-part series that was held during this winter season to activate the campus. The series brought community members who had never been to Coverly before, and participation peaked during our second showing of the Polar Express, and we had 70 at our first showing, and then ending with 75 attendees. If you advance to the next slide, we have some upcoming special events and activities for you. We want you to celebrate friendship during February with the 5th annual puzzle hunt. It's a celebration of friendship, creativity, as well as community. We want you to help team up in solving fun puzzles with pals and embark on a journey to explore some really cool spots around town. And this will encourage you to ditch screens, discover the amazing city, and you can learn more by going to the city's website and the website of solvingfun.com/Palo Alto. In that middle there, we're encouraging you, this is the second annual creation of the Hearts in Harmony Valentine's Dance that will be taking place Friday, February 13th from 5 to 7 at Mitchell Park Community Center. This dance is open to everyone, all ages and abilities. There'll be an inclusive DJ, Valentine's decorations that you can make, and as well as a photo booth, light refreshments, and we hope to see families, neighbors, and all alike coming. It is free, but we encourage you to RSVP. And then another upcoming activity in February is we hope you will join us for the Discover Your Path, a career exploration event at the community park, Mitchell Park Community Center, Saturday, February 28th from 10 to 1. And this is engaging as an interactive event designed for teens and young adults, eager to explore diverse career opportunities to gain valuable skills, connect with professionals and various industries. What to expect: it is a career fair. There's panel speakers, there's going to be interactive activities, networking opportunities, as well as a raffle and some giveaways. If you head to the next slide, we have some Coverly updates for you. Staff will be presenting poll number 3 results to the City Council on February 9th, and as well as discussing next steps. In addition, Coverly update will be coming to the Parks and Recreation Commission on February 24th for final conceptual master plan review. And then on the other half of the slide, beginning March 2nd, Cumberland Community Center will be open by appointment only. Currently, it's walk-in. This change is a result in a citywide budget reductions and requires adjustments to staffing levels. We will remain committed to providing the best customer service possible and will continue to respond to inquiries by email as well as phone. If customers who prefer in-person services may schedule an appointment by contacting us on the contact information listed on the slide. We've also reached out to those who we're currently working with to alert them of this information as well. On the next slide, you'll see some updates that are coming and have been made to the Magical Bridge, which is a playground, which is located at Mitchell Park. On the left photo here, we will have a spinner install that will be completed this week and will be opened on Monday. Or reopened by Monday. And then a bench was repainted and hardware has also been replaced. If you go to the next slide, Eleanor Party Park temporary restrooms. The city installed temporary facilities at Eleanor Party Park this Monday, January 26th, in response to ongoing requests from park users, community gardeners, and based on the strong community feedback from this city survey conducted last year. That survey received 1,171 responses. 82% of the respondents supported the permanent restroom project, including 75% of those who live within walking distance, and only 18% expressed opposition. So this temporary restroom are intended as an interim solution while the permanent project moves forward. The Friends of Palo Alto Parks offered to fully fund these temporary facilities, allowing the city to respond to community needs without the city using operating funds. There was a coming soon sign that was posted earlier in the month, and there is a fact sheet also that is posted on site. The installation includes one standard unit, one ADA accessible unit, as well as a hand washing station. And community outreach for the permanent restroom project is planned for mid-2026. Next slide. 1 year in review, believe it or not, Foothills Nature Preserve Library Pass. We have had it in circulation now for 1 year, and the shift was not just about access, it also improved operations. So moving to a 2-week reservable pass, reduced manual processing, improved trackability and accountability, and allowed staff to manage access more efficiently while still expanding use. The result was 1,273 checkouts in 2025, equating to nearly 18,000 potential access days. So just wanted to round that out. And then on the next slide here, last week, Arrestero Preserve successfully completed pile burns in conjunction and coordination with Grassroots Ecology, Palo Alto Fire, Mid-Peninsula Open Space, and Bay Area Quality Management District. The goal was to reduce fire fuel accumulation, thinning of coyote brush, and collecting other down materials along Arrestero Road. The results in approximately 60 cubic yards of material being transformed into biochar. And then the secondary kind of goal were to hopefully kill off some of those seed bank weeds like yellow star thistle and Medusa head, and encourage growth of the purple needle grass populations in that area. Grassroots Ecology will continue to conduct follow-up surveys going forward to give us feedback on the success of the burn. Next slide. Juan Briones Park, the bridge was replanked and that has been completed. And then the last slide, we have an update on the horizontal levee. The levee portion is complete. If you go to the next slide, we still need to install the pipeline in the road and make the connections to the wastewater treatment plant. The area between the new levee and the road has been hydroseeded with native seed mix and contains a stormwater bioswale bioretention area to allow some stormwater to percolate into the groundwater, and what doesn't percolate down will move under the levee to discharge into the bay. As the seeds grow, the areas will begin to look better and better, and this project is roughly 1/3 of the way complete. So this concludes the departmental report, and we're happy to answer any clarifying questions.
Good job, as always. Thank you. Very informative report. And there's a lot of things that were happening in January. Sorry, I missed some of them. Also appreciate the collaboration, I guess, on the first point with the city of East Palo Alto. Was that something we talked about at the last upcoming, I might have missed it, but the collaboration of the,
for the Martin Luther King?
yeah.
I don't believe.
It might have been advertised.
I think we, through the city manager's updates,
Okay.
I know he did.
Okay.
I believe I missed it in December.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right, thank you. And before I'll give any commissioner, have any questions? Commissioner, Vice Chair.
Thanks, Chair. I really enjoyed the MLK event, and I think the youth service community did a great job, and also we have a desk, the Youth Council, Leadership Council also has a desk. The event been really growing since last few years been observing, and it's also great to see the East Palo kids there as well, putting up their desk and doing their representation. Which reminded me to ask that we supposed to have a soft launch for the youth center in downtown. I had a quick word with Christopher. He was saying something around February 4th and 5th. I'm wondering which day is that. I try to mark my calendar so I can attend. It's a couple blocks from my house.
Oh, great. I'm not sure, actually, we have a date. It is open to the public, so you're welcome to stop by for a visit. We were entertaining actually seeing if we could hold the retreat there. I think ultimately we've decided for Mitchell Park, but as we get more information, and perhaps we can have that in the next departmental report.
Yeah, so it's kind of a suggestion because the week after I attended the Chinese New Year event held by Mitchell Park Library, or the library, which has Avenida's desk. So, and I feel we, as a community serving both youth and senior, if we do have an event, that'd be great. And also invite Avenida's across the street to be aware we have a new youth center in downtown, and they are literally neighbors, right? So it can help cross-generation learning between youth and senior, just thoughtful food. And I'd love to attend if I'm in town. Thank you. Great work, again. It's very interesting events I've been attending last couple of weeks. Thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
The downtown youth, is La Comida going to be going in there?
That's correct. They will have their lunch service there. I believe they start, as Vice Chair Wei mentioned, in February.
And then back to the Foothill, and what could you explain more the library and Foothill? I didn't quite get all that.
Sure. So as of last January, we we changed basically the systematic approach for gaining access to Foothills Nature Preserve. There is a $6 currently parking fee, and so this was a council directive, and there was a one-day pass that you could check out. In lieu of that, there were some operational efficiencies and some opportunities to make some changes, and we were able to utilize the library system to check out just like a normal book, and therefore you are able now to gain access for a 2-week duration and utilize the pass rather than a one-day.
I understand. That's good.
Okay.
The other thing about Foothills, I've met a lot of people from Los Altos Hills, and that's really their park. So I'm going to try to get to know more of them because that might be a community that could help us financially. So just in the future. Thank you.
On that library pass, is that something that can be accessed from the library online?
That is correct. You can
Okay.
also reserve it online.
Like reserving the book,
Yep.
online book? Oh, great.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioners? Oh, Commissioner Ackler.
Yeah, lots of great stuff going on as always. Thank you. Just a couple of clarifying questions. First of all, so we had a chance to use the pass from the library, and the checkout system was really smooth. Like the passes, they look like they're going to be durable. Do we track at all if people actually utilize them when they check them out?
We do not. So the library just has the checkout data. Ultimately, I can speak with our ranger team. I'm not sure if we're tracking, linking how many passes are utilized during each visit.
Great. If it's easy to do, it might be an interesting data point to see if people are actually utilizing it. And the second one is, I also went to the Lunar New Year event at Mitchell, like the vice chair, thought it was great. But do we have any crossover with Parks and Rec, or is that purely a library event?
I know that I don't believe any of the recreation team was there at the lunar event. That's why I didn't include it in the departmental report. We did have involvement in the Martin Luther King Jr. event. That's why we included that one.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Thing.
Thank you, team. Busy month in January. I have a question about Eleanor Party Park, the temporary restrooms. Where are they located? And is that the place where future permanent bathrooms will be located, or it's just a temporary location?
So that is just a temporary location. The location for the permanent facility will be discussed during the community outreach, which is intended to be kind of mid of this year. So looking more towards, as we get further along, we'll have the community engagement portion of that to really finalize location. Currently, the temporary restroom is in a place where it can be serviceable, which is, but also providing access to not only the gardeners, but also the playground area. So it's more, I would say, towards the middle of the park, or where it can still be visible. So it's more of a central location.
Wonderful. Thanks to Friends of Palo Alto Parks.
Yeah, I've seen previous bathrooms there, I guess when there was that gardening from, I forget which university, and they generally will put temporary bathrooms there, and it's in the same location, I presume, so it's a good choice. And some of the feedback I've heard just through reading on Nextdoor has been very positive. I don't think haven't seen anything negative, which is a plus unless you guys have heard something different. It's been there, what, about 2 weeks now, 3 weeks?
No, it was installed starting on Monday.
Okay.
But we did have signage as early as the 9th of this month.
Okay.
That the restroom was coming. And as you mentioned, there have been temporary porta potties for specific events for our master gardeners that have been paid for by that group. And there are a few comments within your packet. And if they were after the Thursday, they will be within your new public comment packet for your next Parks and Rec Commission meeting.
All right, thank you. Any other Commissioner Kleinhaus?
I have questions about the public comment. Several people sent me comments that they said they sent to the commission, but it's not in the packet. And I was wondering if we can have letters that are sent to us on specific issues, not every advertisement that we get, but maybe letters that are on specific issues of discussion. Can they be sent to us as soon as they come in?
I think that's something that we can talk about internally offline, and then maybe it's something that we discuss, because I do know the city, at least for BCC's boards and commissions, we're looking to standardize processing across the board. So it's something that we currently have been updating, and so we don't want to update, but that is something we can.
That way we don't get things in time. I got 3 people send me stuff. They said they sent it to the PRC, and often people don't really know what's coming, right? So maybe they saw the agenda on Friday, they worked on it, sent it on Monday, it's not in the packet, and so we don't get that information or those questions. A lot of it, I think, from what I see in there, is maybe not all that relevant, but some things are.
Understood.
So the emails that go to that PRC address, I know that there's a link that we can, is there a cutoff for that, or do they continue to come in when we receive the agenda with the, with all the updates?
So we post the agenda for a week before the
Right.
meeting, and then on Thursday of your prior to your meeting, so it would have been on the 22nd, I believe, is all the public comment up until the 22nd is included.
Okay, so anything received after the 22nd would not be reflected in the packet, although if it's coming as an email to the PRC, then it should be there anyway when you click on the link, right? Or is it not?
When I looked today for the emails that I was told were sent, one of them they forwarded to me, but not all 3. It seemed like one of them was there, but 2 were not, and I'm not sure, like, when is the cutoff? And I only looked at it, when was that, this morning, so there may have been updates since then that I'm not aware of.
Okay, well, maybe I can follow up with
Okay,
you
that'd be great.
offline. Yeah.
That'd be great, yeah, thank you. Okay, it sounds like the movie nights, you said that it went from 70, you had ended with a total of 75 attendees. Would you say it was successful? Is that what the goal was, to at least have a number? Was it a repeat? Did you keep track of, I guess, whether or not the same people were, the same 70 people that started or the same 70 plus people that ended? Or do you think the word got out to try and expand the program, or were there limits on the number of people who could actually attend?
So I did hear from the team that there was a variety of people attending. There were some repeats, but also one of the goals was bringing new people who haven't been to Cubberley before to Cubberley, and that activation with the movie series did do that. So we thought it was successful.
Okay. Let me ask, did you do a survey, I guess, after that? Is there a survey?
I'm not aware of that,
Okay.
but
That might be a good way to get some
yeah.
additional information, but, okay. Any other comments? Thank you. Thank you again. Good job. Appreciate that. All right, let's move on to council liaison report. Councilmember Lifcott Haynes.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Julie Lifcott-Hames, Council Liaison to Parks and Rec. And again, my apologies for being a few minutes late tonight. I was actually zipping over from the city's open house at Mitchell Park on what we're doing to reduce the impacts of oversized vehicles and provide supports to those who dwell in oversized vehicles on our city streets. I happen to see Commissioner Smith there. He clearly knows a faster route to City Hall than I do because he was here on time. Again, I apologize. Just a brief summary, the city's Public Works Department has begun high-pressure cleaning of the most impacted streets. There are about 17 streets that are highly impacted, and then regular sweeping of those streets, along with stepping up enforcement of our ordinances by towing more vehicles. One thing we've learned is that there aren't a lot of tow lots out there with extra capacity for oversized vehicles, which by their nature take up more room than traditional vehicles. And to my mind, that's all the more reason not to focus solely on towing and on enforcement, which is an important piece of this, but also on the other side, which is how can we figure out how to support folks who are in oversized vehicles, who are dwelling in them because they can't afford housing. So it's a very complex issue. I'm thrilled that the city has decided to thoughtfully address it, meet with people, hear their concerns and frustrations, and try to proceed in a way that I think is leaderful, if that's a word, leaderful. Anyway, so that's where I just was, giving important update. I wasn't giving the updates, but the city was giving important updates to members of the community who want to hold us accountable and see that we're doing something. Some highlights in this new year for council. We took the Parks and Rec Commission's recommendation and approved replacing the synthetic turf at El Camino Park with new synthetic turf. And we voted to pursue a natural gas pilot project to enhance playability and durability, and to continue to explore opportunities to transition from synthetic turf at Cubberley. So you handed us an important opportunity. We ran with it, we went with it, and that addresses the El Camino issue. But as you know, we are rich with parks and playing fields in this city. And this question of the suitability of turf, natural grass, or some kind of hybrid is clearly still an open question for many. So for now, we are addressing it one replacement at a time. We recently took a thoughtful look at the responses to our biannual community survey. This is where we can see how residents view the various programs and services we offer, the quality of life here, and we can compare our results with that of 400 jurisdictions around the country. In a summary fashion, we're told we do quite well versus our peers. I think the only area in which we were lower than our peers is the affordability of housing and the ease of retiring here due to the affordability or unaffordability of housing. But we know we're in a wonderful place, but that doesn't mean we're complacent. It doesn't mean we don't appreciate that continual work must be done to maintain our strengths, to seize opportunities, and overcome our challenges. If you're interested in that survey, it was discussed at the meeting this past Monday, which would have been the 20th, was that? 20, I don't even know what day of the week it is now. Monday, the 19th. Was the meeting we must have discussed it at. Right, right, because we didn't have a meeting last night because we had our retreat on Saturday. Okay. Check out the packet for January 19th if you're interested, because you get just this, it's a very rich report, not just a high-level summary. So if you want to know what Palo Altans think of this city, there's a lot of great data there. We went over our long-range financial forecast, which takes a 10-year look at our budget, and it was a sobering conversation. Our Director of Administrative Services, Lauren Lai, said this is a time for belt-tightening. This is a time for a very deliberate effort to try to take a hard look at the proposed or the projected deficits and develop strategies to bring them down. And our projected deficit, for example, in fiscal '27, which begins in July, is $14.9 million. And that has a lot to do in lower than expected results on sales tax, for example. We had on a happier note, we had our city council retreat this past Saturday, and it's the opportunity annually to articulate what our 4 priorities, or our three to five council priorities, are going to be for the current year. And year over year since I've been on council, the priorities haven't changed much, even though our handbook suggests that priorities should be something that get a unique focus in the given year. Our priorities for a while now have been a longer extension of climate, 3 or 4 words about climate, housing, economic revitalization, and public safety, wellness, and belonging. Well, we decided all those things still matter. We elevated them to the level of values that are enduring for the city, and instead came up with a set of priorities that are more specific and more concrete and more urgent and can get specific focus in the coming year. So the 2026 council priorities, just hot off the press, as approved on Saturday, are government efficiency, achieve near-term priority housing milestones, Cubberley acquisition and renovation funding, and enhance business vibrancy. So you may think that's not much more concrete than the 4 we had before, but to us, that gives us more direction and focus, and allows us to look at all of the things that staff are doing that come underneath these topics, and work with staff to figure out, okay, what are we really going to focus on to kind of move these things over the goal line. We are interviewing for our new city attorney this weekend, a huge transition for us with the departure of Molly Stump. We have some great candidates to look at and hope to bring that home shortly. And then in terms of what's coming, this Monday, February 2nd, we're doing a pre-screening of 158 housing units and 315 parking units in 2 7-story structures at 44 and 88 Encina. This is the parking lot between Town and Country and the Opportunity Center, and this is brought to us by the owners of Town and Country, who are interested in rezoning that area so as to help the city address our housing crisis. And Cubberley next steps, as Ms. Robustelli said, our ad hoc's next update to council is on February 9th. And that will be an opportunity to discuss both the results of poll number 3, which was just conducted January 5th through 12th, and to share an update on our efforts to secure some additional partnerships on top of that of the partnership with Friends of Recreation and Wellness that you all have been so involved with. We've been working on developing some additional partnerships with folks who can help us realize that fuller vision for Cubberley. So tune in for that. There may even be some news on a new partnership before the end of this week. We shall see. And we're excited for you guys to take up Cubberley once again at your next meeting. That's it for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate the update, and sounds like there's a lot of really interesting projects happening in the city, and the I guess the redefinition or redefining of the priorities sounded like a good effort as well.
Appreciate that. Last, I should have said, I have asked the mayor to reappoint me to this commission as liaison, but it's up to the mayor every year to decide who goes where. So should this be my last meeting as your council liaison, please know how much I've enjoyed it.
Well, we've enjoyed having you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Are there any questions from the commission to the council member? Okay, thank you. All right, well, next on the agenda is our ad hoc committees and liaison updates. We decided we would do those earlier because we tend to miss out on them towards the end of the evening. So are there any ad hoc committee? I know we just went through the appointment of the commissioners to these different ad hocs. I don't know if you've had a chance to meet and to meet with your CSD representative, but I'll throw it out there. Anyone? Yeah, yes, Commissioner, sure.
Thanks, Chair. So for the court policy, we have met with Adam and are looking to the more detailed policy coming up soon. We'll present in February. And for youth liaison, I actually visited them both December, and it was good to see them, chat with them about their new priorities for 2026 during the MLK event. And it was also good to see they are also willing to connect it with wider youth, including East Palo Alto, as well as there's a couple of spiritual leaders in the event, new pastors coming to Palo Alto. So they are quite willing to talk to them and present in different churches to showcase what they do. These are my two updates.
Okay, anyone else? I have the park dedication. Just want to follow up on a request that we heard. If you remember at the last meeting, we had a public speaker that was talking about, that was giving us an update about the Ventura Community Center and requesting to have a parkland dedicated to her brother who had passed away. And you probably saw I think she also posted in the last, in our mailing packet, more information about that. So Sir and I actually had an opportunity to meet with her, it's Naomi Brown, Miss Naomi Brown, right? Regarding her request to formally dedicate the Ventura Community Center site as a parkland and to name it in the memory of her late brother. Also in the honor of her father, who is turning 99. So that's one of the things we asked was, why now when this has been like 25 years or so? And so part of that is to the fact that when she did go out to do a search on the internet, it did not bring it up as a park, and that's understandable. So we wanted to make her aware of what the process is, and that it is not formally designated as such in the municipal code. We also explained that the dedication itself would be largely formalize the current use, but that adding commemorative names would trigger the city's standard naming process and additional review. Then we also walk through the general city council timeline and noted our upcoming commission retreat, and for her to use that as an opportunity to also come before the commission, and we would look at the possibility of having a discussion to add that as a work plan, an item to our work plan. So so part of that would be that way, if we do add it as a work plan item, the city staff could conduct an analysis and community outreach and return with a recommendation. And so and that way, any formal dedication or naming would we also communicated to her that any formal dedication or naming would ultimately require city council approval. So at this stage, our role is to just support a clear and structured public process and not to make any commitments. So we just wanted to we spent some time with her just explaining the process, and I think we left the meeting with her wanting to take this further. So we probably can expect to see her at our retreat. So I just wanted to give an update on that, and that's pretty much the only liaison on ad hoc reports I have. Anyone else? Okay, let's move on to the next item on our list. Sorry.
So
Mr. Klinzel.
regarding the Baylands Comprehensive Conservation Plan, We had a meeting with staff today to see how we can proceed. We have to review the proposed guidelines, or I don't know, blueprint for how to move forward and see if that could work to get this project to completion. And so we're still just figuring out how to move forward.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and move to the business item number 4, which is the fiscal year 2025 annual report on the urban forestry section and discussion of great oak count study and upcoming tree and landscape technical manual.
Good evening, Commissioners, Council Member. My name is Peter Gollinger. I'm the urban forester for the city. This is an annual update that we bring to Parks and Recreation. This commission is the public forum for the urban forestry section, so this is our opportunity to provide an update to the commission and to the public. So for those of you who have not been a part of one of these updates before, urban forestry is a section of the city that is under the Public Services Division, which is in the Public Works Department. The key responsibilities of the section are to manage the maintenance of all public trees, remove and replace public trees as needed. We respond to calls for service related to downed trees or tree limbs across public right-of-way. We manage the clearance of vegetation from utility infrastructure. We review development plans for compliance with city tree policies, including the tree ordinance and the tree technical manual. And we also respond to resident calls regarding public trees. Next slide, please. Currently, we are staffed with 15 full-time employees. We have 6 tree trimmer line clearers, 2 contract inspectors. We have 1 vacancy currently, which is our tree trimmer lead. We also have 3 project managers. 1's assigned to public trees, 1 to electric line clearance, and 1 to tree ordinance. Next slide, please. The total number of trees the city maintains is just under 40,000 public trees. We also trim approximately 30,000 trees for electric line clearance. Some of these are city-owned, many of these are private. Next slide, please. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is our staff. We have a very qualified staff with, excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold, so it's been an interesting weekend. We definitely pride ourselves on our certifications. We have recently added 2 new certifications this last year, which is the tree and plant appraisal qualification. So the industry has realigned the appraisal process to more mirror traditional appraisal methods. And so that's a new qualification that just came into being about 2 years ago. We also had a staff member participate and graduate from the Municipal Forestry Institute, which is a week-long intensive training for municipal forestry. Next slide, please. So this is some of the fun data that we get to look at. So during FY25, we inspected over 1,000 city trees. Obviously, we saw more, but that's formal inspections. We did 626 tree protection inspections on tree fencing for projects. Over 970 development reviews were conducted by staff. These are plans for projects that are ongoing. We were called for 256 limb pickups. A little over 8,000 trees were pruned for electric line clearance. Just under 3,000 public trees were pruned for maintenance, and we planted 466 new street trees. Next slide, please. Some of the key accomplishments for last fiscal year. We started a collaboration with our code enforcement department or division. This helped us revise our process for addressing tree ordinance violations. Most notably, we established a framework for issuing notices of violation. Previously, we would just write violations notices on a booklet, and it wasn't very thorough. Having a framework for issuing a notice of violation allows us to be more precise in our findings and allow folks an opportunity to make things right before we get to enforcement. We continue to participate with our neighbors in the Santa Clara Valley Urban Forestry Alliance. It's got a really horrible acronym, SCUFA. This is a group of urban foresters throughout the county that are working together on urban forestry issues from a regional perspective. And we've also started working with a group of peninsula municipal foresters going all the way up to San Francisco. These meet quarterly, roughly, and discuss current issues within urban forestry. One of the big things this year, we mentioned it in the last slide, is we planted 466 new street trees. The previous average for the last 15 years is about 283, so that was a dramatic increase for us. And we continue to work with the Bay Area Invasive Shot Hole Borer Working Group, which we'll talk about in another slide down the road. Next slide, please. So this is a slide that shows our maintenance program outputs. So these are just some of those numbers that I talked about at a previous slide, only showing the past history. So later on, we can come back and talk with these a little bit more if we need to. But you'll notice the limb pickups in 2023, that was the year we had the big windstorms. We had 440 limb pickups. Now we're back down to our traditional average of about 250. And you'll notice that the line clearance is the high red number. We do a lot of line clearance work. Next slide, please. One thing that has been increasing over the previous few years is the development review by urban forestry staff. So these are permits that come in through the permit process that we review for compliance with the tree ordinance. Basically, the number of development applications we review has been steadily increasing, as have our inspections and our total number of tasks. Next slide, please. This slide is for our street tree maintenance program. Our target pruning cycle is a 7-year cycle. And so this is the number of trees pruned over the last 15 years. We had a couple of high years in 2017 and 2018 where we were able to prune more than the target number. The last few years we've been below, which is, you'll see the trend line there is dipping down into the 8-year cycle. Overall, this isn't a huge concern. We've reassigned some of the contractor work the last few years to address service requests, which means they've been less efficient. So they've been helping us catch up on our backlog of out-of-cycle maintenance, which pushes the cycle maintenance back a little bit. So we expect to get back on track in the next few years. Next slide, please. Some of the challenges that we're facing here now and into the future are the eventual arrival of the invasive shot hole borer here in Palo Alto. It's currently in San Jose. We have not yet detected it in the city limits or within our neighboring cities, but based on previous experience with this pest in Southern California and Central California, it will move here eventually. One of the things that's challenging is while we know our neighboring cities are all aware of the problem, we do not know what level of monitoring they're undertaking. We have established some treatment protocols, and once the pest is detected closer to the city, we'll begin some early outreach with residents and tree care companies. We're in the process of starting one staff recruitment for our tree trimmer line clear lead. Our longtime tree trimmer Lancaster lead Bill Croft retired this last year, and so we're going to finally get that position replaced. We did have a reduction of one vacancy as part of the FY26 budget balancing. So we previously had 7 tree trimmer positions, and now we're down to 6. Another big issue that we've encountered is homeowner insurance tree clearance requirements have changed. This is partially in response to wildfire pressure, but many home insurance companies will now force the homeowner to remove all overhanging limbs, or they will drop their coverage. This doesn't really make sense in a lot of situations, especially in non-high fire danger areas. Oftentimes, the damage to the tree will cause more of a problem than leaving the limbs would have. So the good news is the large organizations, arborist organizations, including the International Society of Arboriculture and the Society of Municipal Arborists, all have lobbyists working with the insurance companies to try and get to some sort of sensible conclusion here. Next slide, please. Fortunately, our friends down in San Jose are keeping tabs on the invasive shot-hole borer. The highlighted orange symbols on the map are the confirmed sightings where they have sent in samples to the state and confirmed the presence of invasive shot-hole borer. Next slide, please. Our staff here in Palo Alto is currently during the summer months, now that we'll probably wait another month or so till we're sure the heavy rains are done and over with. We will actually have sticky traps out with some lure attachment on it, and we do presence testing for invasive shot-hole borer. So we have stations located along the riparian corridors throughout town, and we check these about once a month. And so far, we have not located any of the little critters, so that's good news for us. It's not a guarantee that it's not here somewhere. They're very small and very hard to detect. Next slide, please. So as far as the regular operations, that was the update for urban forestry. One of the key things that's happened this past year is a long-term project undertaken by the City of Palo Alto and our nonprofit partner Canopy is the great oak count. Next slide, please. So what is the great oak count? It is a field verified count of native oaks throughout the city. This is based on the original 2001 Oakwell survey. The photo you see there is some of the original volunteers for the first survey. Trained volunteers scout predetermined routes and provide data to the city on the native oak population. Next slide, please. So why is this being redone? Well, the Urban Forest Master Plan called for the study to be completed, and it would track trends from the original study to the new study. Canopy began the survey in 2017. The survey does not include open space areas. It is just for the traditional city area. Next slide, please. So there's a map of the routes. The city was broken down into 279 different routes covering 24 defined neighborhoods. The data collected included species, trunk size, and geolocation. Next slide, please. Some of the excellent data that was collected. So Canopy surveyed close to 11,000 oaks recorded as alive. The species ranged from 79% coast live oak, 18% valley oak, just under 2% black oak, 1% blue oak, and a little bit of other species. Next slide, please. Land use category, the majority of the oaks were found on residential single-family property, with 23% found on commercial property. Next slide, please. Based on diameter, the majority of the oaks were obviously the young oaks were 0 to 11 inches. 33% of them were 12 to 24, and 20% of them were 25 to 36. This is not an unexpected distribution based on the age of the trees. Next slide, please. One of the things that's interesting here is in the 2001 survey, there were very few species other than coast live oak and valley oak. And you'll notice here that the blue oak and California black oak numbers are primarily small. We attribute that to an increase in planting of those trees in the past 10 years. So those trees just haven't had an opportunity to get large yet. Next slide, please. So this is a comparison of the original Oakwell data with the new great oak count. You'll notice that in the original Oakwell, they recorded just under 9,000 trees, and in the new count, just under 11,000. That's a 22% increase. And you'll notice there's a dramatic increase in black oak and blue oak. As I mentioned before, the primary species in the first were just coast live oak and valley oak. Next slide, please. The other item which we spoke about the last time we were here is the Tree and Landscape Technical Manual. I wanted to provide an update and an explanation why that is not quite ready yet. Next slide, please. First, a reminder of what the Tree and Landscape Technical Manual is. It is the companion document to the tree ordinance. It provides details for protection of trees during construction, how to replace trees when they're removed. It gives guidelines for maintenance of protected trees, provides information on the format and content of tree reports, and much more. Next slide, please. The draft was originally released at the beginning of the year in 2025. It was brought here to Parks and Rec in February for comments and feedback. Feedback and public comments were reviewed and incorporated into the draft document. What we discovered during the course of this past year is that some of our internal review processes for certain permit types were not fully in compliance with the ordinance. So we've made modifications to that, and therefore we've had to rewrite those portions of the guide. So that's in process, and it should be completed at the end of February. And we expect to send the TLTM to the city manager for review and approval in March. Next slide, please. And I'm happy to answer questions and go over data, and thank you very much.
Thank you. It's always great to hear your reports on an annual basis, and excellent presentation in providing the Parks and Rec with an update of this important work. And it's always a pleasure to hear about the progress and stewardship of our city's canopies. And, you know, it's especially rewarding when you have visitors coming to the area and they say, why are there so many trees here? So that's a good thing. So please keep up the great work. And as always, feel free to reach out to the Parks and Rec if we can help in any way possible. So I'll open this up to the commissioners if you have any clarifying questions that you want to ask. Commissioner Axelrod.
Wonderful report, thank you. I hope you don't mind some newbie questions. So it seems like the invasive short-hole borers are coming. What's going to be the remediation when we find them?
So unfortunately, eradication is not possible. As discovered as this pest moved through Southern California, once it gains a foothold, it's really difficult to eradicate. It's just not possible. So it's going to be damage mitigation. There's certain species that the pest likes more than others, and so you monitor those, and if the pest threshold reaches a certain level, you can treat. There's certain insecticides that will work. Otherwise, you would need to remove and replace with a different species. So it's going to be a lot of monitoring and damage control. That's what San Jose is dealing with right now. It's primarily on their riparian corridors, and so that's where we're focusing our efforts right now to be ready. And we have some treatment protocols already established, and so once we hit the ground running, we know if there's more than this many infestation marks, we have a whole threshold. This is treat, this is remove, this is monitor. there's a lot of good data out there because this pest has been in California since 2012. And so multiple groups have worked on this and come up with some excellent thresholds for treatment and action.
Do you have a sense from the cities that have been infected, like what percentage of trees do you anticipate having to be treated or replaced after this happens?
It's difficult to determine. We can't really base our numbers on the Southern California numbers because our climate is different, and so the pest is not moving as aggressively in Northern California as it did in Southern California. And it's only been in San Jose for 3 to 5 years, and it hasn't left the city yet. So we're cautiously optimistic. It has a large host range as far as species go. It's unusual. Most pests focus on one genus or a couple genuses. This has a very large list of species that it can reproduce in. It has several favorites, which are going to be the ones we're going to be most on the lookout for.
Great. And if I can just have an unrelated question, love the great oaks count report. Just curious, why are we counting just the great oaks, not redwoods or something else?
So the key is the native oaks provide all kinds of benefits, including habitat corridors and it's really important. This was an oak woodland before it was developed. And so knowing where we have the continuity of that oak canopy is valuable. And this is measuring oaks on private property as well as public property. So in our city inventory, we pretty much just monitor what's city owned in the city right away. And so having this data for trees that are on private property is really valuable to know where we can focus our efforts in planting more oaks in the future.
Let's start with Commissioner Smith. You have it? Okay. Commissioner Wade, Vice Chair.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for the great report. Really enjoy seeing the data and really commend you for keep up the service level and public safety despite your staff turnaround, increasing workload. And the volumes, inspection, permits reviewed, and emergency response speaks to a lot of your dedication. I agree the great oak count is a major accomplishment, both scientifically and community-wise. Quick questions. What is the so the canopy you mentioned about, so what is the minimum staffing level needed to realistic maintain the 7-year pruning cycle? Because we see the pruning last couple of years going down, so we can reach the planting targets.
So for our street tree maintenance program, the 7-year cycle is our target for turnaround time. So each street tree should be pruned with a full service prune once every 7 years. Right now, we've had some contract funding difficulties. I don't want to say, basically what we've done is because we've been short-staffed for several years, our city staff focuses on removals and service requests. And our contractor focuses on the area prune general maintenance. So that's the primary division of labor. And so because we've been short-staffed, we reassigned the contractor these last several years to assist with more service requests as part of their work package than in the previous years. So the total number of trees pruned has been reduced because we've been dealing with out-of-cycle service requests. We expect that to go back towards the area pruning starting this year and again next year. So it should correct back the other direction. Once their work quantities will go back to the area prune.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a priority with your short of staff. And then I wonder, it's this oak count canopy equity kind of question. For the 7 neighborhoods showing oak and canopy decline, do we have any hypothesis yet, like whether it's removal, redevelopment, heat stress, delayed replacement? Why do we have the?
So that's going to require some additional study. One of the key points that we're waiting on is canopy cover data from 2024. So we currently are part of a program that gets canopy coverage data every 2 years. Unfortunately, the 2024 data has been delayed primarily due to the government shutdown because the base imagery that's used to calculate it comes from the USDA. So the most recent data we have is from 2022. And until we have new data, it would be really difficult to determine. Our guess is that it's primarily due to redevelopment and removal of older oaks, but until we do a deeper dive, we can't guarantee that. The number of oaks has increased, but in those neighborhoods, the percentage of canopy has decreased. Now, whether they're directly related or not, we would have to do a little bit of a deeper dive.
Yeah, final question might be related to can the Great Oak count data be more, say, operationalized? Maybe, I know you have a short of staff and there might be another gun shut down, prioritizing planting protection or outreach in some specific area, make sure our underprivileged neighborhoods get more canopy.
That's definitely something that we can have this data help us with. We're already focused on providing additional canopy for South Palo Alto, which traditionally has a lower canopy coverage percentage. So that's something we're working on already, and we can incorporate this data into that program.
Excellent. You're always a way ahead. Thank you. Thanks so much.
I'm sorry, before we were asking for clarifying questions. We got off on a different tangent there. Are there any speakers, Eric, either online or in person?
Yeah, there are currently two people in person.
Okay, let's go ahead and do those.
Our first speaker is JPR.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is JP Renault, and I'm the Executive Director of Canopy. I want to thank Peter for his not only presentation, but his incredible partnership, and for walking us through the findings of the Great Oak Count. So you've already heard the numbers, so I want to spend my time talking about what this report means and what it asks of us going forward. Because this study is not just about trees. It's about how we care for living infrastructure over time. One thing the report makes unmistakably clear is how it was made. It wasn't abstract analysis, it was built by people. More than 350 community volunteers walking streets, logging data, and spending thousands of hours across every neighborhood in Palo Alto. That level of participation in our city matters. Because here's the reality. Trees live longer when they are planted and tended by community. That's a fact. When residents are engaged, when volunteers are trained, when youth and neighbors are part of care, trees don't just survive planting day, they make it to maturity. This is why partnership matters. Urban forestry is not a one-time capital project. It's a decades-long commitment. And no city, no matter how well staffed or resourced, can sustainably monitor, water, and steward every tree on its own. Community partners extend public capacity by activating people as caretakers, not just as beneficiaries. This report also reinforces something bigger. Trees are critical infrastructure. They cool streets, protect public health, manage stormwater, and build our communities and buffer our communities against extreme climates. And like any infrastructure, they require maintenance, or the investment is lost. The difference is trees are infrastructure that only work when people are involved. Community-centered forestry delivers outcomes policy alone cannot. It builds accountability. It creates local ownership. It ensures that public investments last long enough to deliver their full benefit. When neighbors know a tree, when they've been watered, when they water it, track it, and watch it grow, they protect it. So as you consider future policies, budget, staffing, and direction, this report makes a quiet but powerful case. Supporting community partnership is not supplemental to urban forestry. It is fundamental. It is how we safeguard long-term returns on public investments. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Penny P.
Hi, I'm Penny Proctor, and my focus is on the Eleanor Community Garden. We have several leaning trees that, and one of them dropped a branch this big around and about 30 feet long a year and a half ago, and it's very unbalanced over the plots where people garden and has not had any lightening of the taking any weight off of it. We have a lot of, one of the gardeners said, you know, if that branch had fallen when she was there, what would have happened to her? And we have quite a few privets and Celtis australis. That particular one is a Celtis australis. And those have berries, which the birds eat, and then they poop and more of them come. And it would be nice to remove them because they're non-native, they're invasive, and they create a lot of shade. And that particular one looks dangerous. Of course, I don't know how dangerous it actually is. We have several, maybe 3 oaks that are really leaning and have only weight on one side that I'm also worried about. And it would be it's very discouraging to hear that the deficit has gone up so much. If you had the money, it would sure be nice to prune more often and prevent the trees from getting dangerous instead of waiting until they're dangerous before anything can be done about them. We also have a hedge that is 25 feet tall. The hedges in the rest of the park are pruned regularly, trimmed, and for whatever reason, this one hasn't been. It's on the developed park side, excuse me, of the community garden fence, but instead of being kept at like 6 to 8 feet, which would be a nice buffer from the park to the community garden, it's been allowed to grow to 25 feet, and then that totally shades 5 plots. And it's an English laurel, which is meant to be a low hedge. But anyway, thank you for your help, and we're very happy to have the new porta potties.
There are no more public speakers.
Thank you, and thank you, public speakers, for your thoughtful comments and contributions. Appreciate it. Commissioner Deng.
Yeah, thank you for a very educational report, Peter. Based on your report, oaks make up over a quarter of Palo Alto's urban forestry, correct? I think we have a total over 40K, and oaks are about like 11K.
So the just under 40,000 is only public trees,
Okay.
and the surveyed oaks were all kinds, so both public and private. So I don't know if that's quite accurate, but.
But it's like the largest species, right?
Yes.
I see. Thank you. Just out of curiosity, how old is the oldest oak tree in Palo Alto, and where is it located?
That's a good question. It's really difficult to know for sure. I know some of the oaks at Rinconada Park were full-size oaks before the park was built. So that would probably be my guess for where some of the oldest ones would be. As far as actual age, difficult to tell. Could be anywhere between 200 to 300 years.
Wow. Thank you. My last question is, do we have any challenges to hire a qualified tree trimmer?
Generally, no. We usually have multiple applicants when we have an opening. Currently, the delay, I believe, is just the hiring process, not lack of applicants.
Great, so we're in good hands. Thank you.
Commissioner Kleinhaus?
Thank you. What are the favorite trees for the shothold borer that you mentioned earlier?
Box elder is its absolute favorite. It's like ice cream. It also likes London planes, which unfortunately we have a lot of in town. And I think there's several others, but there's a really, box elders are the key indicators. Those are the ones that they ask you to go find your box elders and check them out. And fortunately, we don't really have any. I think we have 2 street trees that are box elders in the whole town. But we are keeping an eye on them.
We must have some in the open spaces. Okay. What species of trees did the city plant in our public spaces? And how many of those in the past 5 years are native oaks?
So I don't have the exact number for the last 5 years, but I believe we've been at a steady 20 to 25% native species on our plantings for street trees. And I would say the majority of those would be native oaks. I did run some numbers. So overall for street trees, it looks like we have a total of 2,250 native oaks that are street trees. So out of our, and so this, I believe this is removing parks trees. So this would be right-of-way trees. So this might be some path trees and some street trees, but no formal parks. So that's a pretty significant number.
And you mentioned that in the report that the city removed 400 or so trees. Do you keep track of how many of the trees that are removed are, and I don't know about private, but do you keep any track on how many of those are native trees or native oaks?
So we could pull the species data for that. I believe I looked at the percentages, and the highest, the most, out of the 300 and some odd removals we did last year, the majority of them were Modesto ash, liquid amber, and I think maybe there was some coast live oaks in there, but most of them were older street tree species.
Okay. What does Canopy plant? What type of trees do they plant? There was a mention that they planted quite a few trees in South Palo Alto. How is it decided what tree is going to be planted? Who decides?
Canopy generally works with the property owner to determine, but I know they focus primarily on both native and climate adapted species.
Okay. This is a bit of a more difficult potentially question of how do you use this like how would the forestry department use the great oak count?
So in several ways. So the data that they collected is going to be available to us within the tree plotter, which is their tree inventory program. So for instance, we could use it to review where oaks are. Let's say we get a development review application for a property we've never seen before. We could look and see, oh, where did they find oaks on this property? We can also use it to determine where there are gaps in oaks. So if we're focused on a planting effort, we could choose those areas to plant oaks as street trees, provided there's adequate space.
Okay, I think you'd still go and check that there's no oaks that they missed or something, right?
So we have done some spot check of the data in a few places, and so far we have not found any issues. The data looks great.
But if you get an application and it doesn't they didn't find an oak there, then you just assume that there isn't, or do you?
Oh, no. Now I understand what you're saying. I thought you meant in general for the study.
Okay.
No,
That's fine.
no.
Yeah, that's
No,
fine.
if we have if there's a application, usually there's an associated arborist report, and we make a field visit and all that, so. Yeah.
Okay, good. I mean, I'm sure that
Now
the
I understand what
report
you're
is
saying.
good, but.
I was saying it's an additional tool we can use.
That's good. So I had one other question. You mentioned that the survey looked mostly not at the nature preserve, but it does include Esther Clark, which is a nature preserve, and half the trees in parks more than half are at Esther Clark. So if I look at how many, I wrote that down, we had, in parks, we had 1,148 trees, which is 10% of the city oaks that were, but then out of that, 647 are in Esther Clark, which is a nature preserve. So it seems to me that we have quite a deficiency in our parks that we need to start looking at closely, but that may be for later. And let's see. I had some comments, but I don't know if you want to do comments yet, or it's still questions.
I can come back to you if you want. Yeah, let me, just to tag on to when we talk, are there any, I guess, any proactive planting that takes place? I mean, we have a number of trees that are removed because of disease and so forth, but there's also trees that are damaged as a result of, storms and so forth. I assume you're not just waiting for a tree to go down to plant it, because it takes years for it to reach that height, so I'm just wondering if that...
So generally what happens is that we only have so many sites available for street trees. So I'll speak to street trees first, because those are the trees that are planted in the public right-of-way. We generally have a very low vacancy rate as far as sites that are unoccupied. We do have a list in-house of places where stumps still need to be removed and then trees need to be replanted. Generally, when a tree comes out, we can replant. Occasionally, there'll be a utility conflict, and so that site will then become an obsolete site. So we constantly have a list of trees and locations to plant. It's a constant backlog, and so that's one of the things that we focused on last year, was trying to reduce the amount of backlog, which is why we were able to plant that 466 trees. Yeah. And we've continued that effort on into this fiscal year as well. So we've been planting additional trees this year also.
Okay. And the speaker brought up, I think, a pretty interesting comment, and that is about trees that are, oak trees that are that get heavy as a result of not getting trimmed and so forth. Is there any, I guess, ongoing maintenance that takes place to prevent that? And maybe there's going around the city to see which ones are like that, and is there any, I guess, danger of it doesn't always mean that a tree is going to fall because it's leaning, I suppose, but how do you assess whether or not that tree should be removed or limbs should be trimmed so it could reduce some of the weight and so forth?
So part of the maintenance process is every time a tree is visited for a maintenance event, it's evaluated. The trees that were brought up in particular are not necessarily street trees. Those are in a park setting. So, and I'll have to do a little more research on whether those are actively in the same maintenance program as everything else. Parks trees are traditionally have been treated slightly differently. They have been maintained by our contractor recently. So I need to do a little more digging on that.
But that is something that's under your purview?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
And just to add a little bit more color, I believe Eric also met with a member of your team this morning regarding Eleanor Pardee, and it sounds like there's pruning that will be taking place next week. Is that correct, Eric?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Commissioner, Vice Chair?
Thanks, Chair. So to respond, great public comment earlier about the collaboration partnership among the communities. I wonder if there are any need from how we can help as commissioners to bring more even business communities to, the banks and Chase, Citibank, they all can take care their tree in front of their businesses. Is there any way we can do to help you to motivate more public-private partnership, which both, I think, Commissioner Smith and I done quite a lot of corporate social responsibility work in our professional work.
That's definitely something that we could explore both with Canopy and on our own. I know that Canopy is planning a large Arbor Day event this year. So that is definitely going to be an opportunity for us to do a lot of outreach and speak with the citizens face-to-face on issues having to do with urban forestry. I don't have an exact date yet.
Yeah, including the Chamber of Commerce, Palato, maybe that can help you, just a suggestion, comment. The other probably already asked by Chair and Commissioner Shani too. I presume the gray oak count are used to, the matrix are used to prioritize planting locally adaptable oak species in this area, and how do you plan to do that, use that for the next 2 to 3 years to improve the oak tree retention and overall canopy outcomes?
So we'll be able to determine if there are any gaps in basically the oak canopy corridors. And if there are significant gaps, then those are locations where we could focus our efforts on getting oaks planted in the right of way.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you for the great work, and we really appreciate that.
Mr. Kleinhutz.
So I have a couple more questions. At the duck pond, at the Baylands, there were 15 trees planted recently, oaks. 3 of them are locally native oaks, and the other 12 are not. And there are southern oaks, which really, I'm trying to understand why they were not all native oaks, or at least native trees that are local and belong in the Baylands. And maybe you can explain.
I'll field that one first, and then maybe Peter can support. But we chose those particular species. I believe the 12 are southern live oak, and that was due to the fact that the duck pond area is not a very well-draining area. And so the Quercus virginiana is the botanical name of that, and that's a good species that in areas that have wet feet, such as the Baylands, it's got a very shallow water table. So if there's seasonal inundation or flooding, the southern live oaks can handle that better than the coast live oak. And we chose a couple spots for coast live oak because we still wanted to plant some natives in a little bit of a, mounded up higher elevation areas. So we tried to do the right tree, right place in that situation. The duck pond kind of plant palette is a mix of Mediterranean, Australian species, so there's not a lot of natives to begin with, and there's quite a bit of more work to do. So it was a step in the right direction, kind of balancing the need for natives, but also, right tree, right place. So that's why we went non-native in that situation.
Why didn't you plant Fremont cottonwood or alders or willows or something that would grow there and is native to the area?
Well, it was also a matter of the trees we also wanted to be drought tolerant because to get them established, it's going to require some hand watering for the first few years. And so the beauty of the southern live oaks is that they're drought tolerant, but they can also handle the wet feet, and they kind of grow a little bit more. They have a better structure than in cottonwoods and kind of those riparian species.
So the consideration is aesthetic and not ecological, and I find that a bit problematic. I understand that you want the looks of the oak because that's really pretty, and I get it. But planting a foreign oak in the baylands is not the best thing for the biodiversity of the baylands, whereas if you planted trees that are locally native, that would actually, I think, be more than just aesthetics. And I think that's important to keep in mind, that we're trying to restore the biodiversity. And if you, and you know, maybe I need to look again at the guidelines, and this is something that I think should be in the BCCP, plant locally native plants before, and in a nature preserve, aesthetics is important, but it's not the primary consideration to me. That's just what I have to say about that. And another place, and I don't know what the plans are for it, but there was several times discussions of planting valley oaks along the road that goes along the meadow at Foothills Park, and I don't know what's happening with that. Can you, either one of you, talk about that?
Well, I'm not aware of that particular project.
Oh, well, there was one tree planted, and then that tree died. And there was discussion several times in the liaison group and all that, to plant valley oaks along the road, sort of between the road and the meadow. So I don't know if that's something you can put on your investigation list.
We can look into it. I'm not sure if that's something that CSD did or if it was another effort.
There were discussions of that in the it's not ad hoc, it was a liaison group even with Darren was still there. So I don't know where it's at.
Yeah, I don't think that's anything staff is currently pursuing, because we did check with fire, and I think there's concerns because right now that is an area where they can land and a fire break, and planting more trees in that area is something that wouldn't serve that area. So it's not something right now staff is pursuing.
Okay, you might want to ask them again, because the meadow is very wide. It's not a narrow place. They can still have some oaks along the road and still have plenty of space to land I don't know, whatever they need to land there. Okay, I want to get back to some of the questions about distance and how do you fill in the oaks, because we've discussed this. And are you using the SFAI re-oaking Silicon Valley document as guidelines? They have some distances. They say, you know, oaks need to be 100 feet or less distance from each other. They say that large oaks, and they're not discussing, you know, something that is really small yet and will take time to grow. And they're talking about 5 to 20 oaks per acre. Are you looking at when you look for opportunities to plant, do you use that guidance?
Not actively, but that's along the lines of what we're looking at, but not specifically using that specific guidance. We're looking for gaps. That's a great way to measure the gaps. So we will look into.
So maybe you can take a look at that document. It's actually pretty lovely and comprehensive. They also talk about coverage of about 10 to 40% with oaks. I don't expect us to get there, but I think that would be something that also could happen if homeowners are encouraged, and that's something Canopy can do, to plant oaks. And rather than plant plants that have very little food web function in the ecological system. And that's why these trees are so important, because so many species co-evolve and depend on them. And that's why bringing an oak for somewhere else, it can look very pretty and do really well, but it doesn't serve the ecological function. And that's my concern in nature preserves and elsewhere. I think, Mountain View is doing a biodiversity and urban forest plan, and they're really tying those together, and I think it should be tied together. And we have an opportunity in the parks to help that happen. So I'm hoping that this will move forward that way.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
Do we still plant a tree for the former mayor?
Yes.
And when does that happen about?
So it tends to happen somewhere between January and March. Usually what happens is the canopy group gets together with the mayor and decides about tree species, and they work with the Parks Department to determine a location. And then depending on the mayor, it can be a very large event or a very small event. It's kind of up to them. So I don't believe there's a date set yet for this year's planting.
I would just think let's maximize the PR on that because it's a nice time to thank the mayor and also get us out. And the second thing, I want to compliment the canopy people. Your volunteers are all over the town, and I think that is really neat to see their involvement. So thank you.
It's the same for me as well. And thanks for the presentation. I do have one last question, though. We mentioned staffing and service backlogs, but the question would be, what level of backlog, in months or number of cases, I guess you could say, do you consider to be operationally unacceptable?
So typically, if we get a service request that's not an emergency, let's take a removal and replacement as an example. So a tree is removed and there's a stump, then the stump needs to get ground, and then the tree gets replaced. Ideally, we would like that to take about 3 months. Historically, it's taken anywhere from 12 to 18 months, which is primarily why we were trying to address that backlog last year. Now we're down to about 3 to 5 months as a turnaround time. So we're getting close to the area where we would like to be. And so we're working to reduce the number of trees to be planted and stumps to be ground and get that into a quicker turnaround.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Alcaraz.
So in the last few years, it seems like your application reviews have been skyrocketing. I'm just wondering, is that attributed more to higher number of applications, higher percentage of applications, and is that something you can keep up with current staffing levels without delays?
So that's a very good question. The increase is due to several factors. One, when we updated the tree ordinance in 2022, we increased the number of protected trees, which means that more projects that are removing trees are now removing protected trees versus unprotected trees. Part of the other issue is we've tightened up our review process with the Planning and Development Services. So we're looking at more applications that we possibly should have been looking at previously, but we weren't. So we've kind of dialed that into things that we should be reviewing and things that we don't need to review. We are approaching kind of max capacity for our current staffing level. There's a little bit of leeway with certain permit types, but I am concerned if it continues to increase much more in the coming years that there will be a staffing issue with the amount of time it takes to process that review. Right now, our department has not been the holdup on a large number of projects. When I start getting the alarm calls, then I know it's a problem because then we're the holdup on this. So far, so good. But I can foresee a bottleneck at some point.
Again, thank you for the presentation. As you can see, we all are very interested in trees, so keep up the good work. We really appreciate it. We really value the canopy of tree coverage here in the city, so keep it up. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the next item. Okay. You guys okay? Don't need a break? This is Lamb, so. I was asking if we should take a break, but I think we're okay. Let's take a 5-minute break, Lamb, give you a chance to get started.
No
We'll do
problem.
5 minutes.
No problem.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Number 5 of our agenda, which is the review of projects to be proposed to the fiscal year 2027 and 20 to 2033. So take it away, Lam.
Good evening, Chair Freeman and members of the commission. Thank you for this opportunity to present and discuss with you this evening some of the department's capital improvement projects. I am Lam Do with the Division of Open Space, Parks and Golf. This evening I'm joined by my colleagues Sarah Robustelli and Ben Heinstein this evening as well. Tonight's discussion is to complement the accompanying staff report on CIP projects, which are to be proposed for fiscal years 2027 through 2031, with a focus on projects in the upcoming fiscal year 2027 and highlighting changes since the last time the Commission reviewed the CIP plan. I'll also cover projects completed or to be completed in the current fiscal year 2026. Next slide, please. To start with, the capital budget is a 5-year rolling budget plan where projects are slated for an upcoming year and up to 5 years out as well. Here's a graphic on the CIP process showing the stages of planning, review, formally proposing, public hearings, and City Council approval. This process occurs over approximately 7 months each year, starting last November, with staff in Open Space, Parks and Golf, along with colleagues in Public Works Engineering, taking a look at reviewing our CIP plans, our capital needs, adjusting timelines based on anticipated budget environment, infrastructure condition, and also staff capacity bandwidth. During this month, staff submits proposals to the Office of Manager of Budget, also referred to as OMB. Leading up to this point, however, though, staff in Community Services has not only met with our colleagues in Public Works Engineering, but we also met with the Commission's liaison group on CIPs as well. Then, in February and March, OMB will review proposals from all city departments and make recommendations to the city manager. In April, the city manager's office and OMB will then prepare a formal 5-year budget plan to present to the city council. Also occurring in April, the Planning and Transportation Commission will review the 5-year CIP plan for compliance with the city's comprehensive plan. During the month of May, the City Council will then task the Finance Committee to review and hold public hearings on the CIP plan and associated budget. To close out the 7-month process, in June, the City Council will then be asked to approve the budget and the 5-year rolling CIP plan. It's important to keep in mind that the City Council only approves the funding for the upcoming fiscal year, and the remaining 4 years of the plan are for planning purposes only. Next slide, please. Within the Community Services Department, there are 2 types of capital projects. The first type are ongoing, also referred to as recurring CIPs, which span multiple years to address recurring infrastructure needs. Such CIPs can cover a broad need or specific need as well. Scopes and priorities are continuously determined and refined. Examples of ongoing and recurring CIPs are athletic court resurfacing, as well as open space, lakes, and pond maintenance. Where with athletic court resurfacing, it encompasses playing courts throughout the city's parks and facilities. Courts such as basketball and tennis courts are resurfaced on a rolling as-needed basis. The second type of CIP that's within the department are usually project-specific or site-specific. Although they may or may not span multiple years, once a project goes through design and construction, the project is then closed out. Such CIPs are reviewed annually and may have their timeline, scope, or budgets changed or shifted. Examples of projects that are specific in nature or site-specific are the eucalyptus tree removal project in our open space preserves, and also the Mitchell Park improvement project, which we will discuss in a little bit here. When we discuss the Mitchell Park project, you'll see later in the presentation, it is an example of a project which also had its timeline moved up. For tonight's discussion, our focus is on the projects in the upcoming fiscal year 2027. Next slide, please. However, before we move to look at fiscal year 2027 projects, we have here a list of 10 projects which staff anticipates to close out during the current fiscal year 2026. On this list, you'll see there are 7 projects in bold, and these bold projects are either complete or substantially completed. Of the 7 projects, there are 2 large projects completed, which were Boulware Park improvements, and that was led by our Public Works Engineering colleagues, and Mayfield Turf replacement, which was led by the Parks Division. Okay. The remaining 3 non-bold projects are projects that we do anticipate to complete within the next few months in this current fiscal year as well. Next slide, please. And now, moving on to projects being proposed for fiscal year 27, which is our focus. Here are 26 CIPs in this slide and the next slide. These consist of projects that are recurring projects, projects previously reviewed by the Commission, and new projects not yet discussed with the Commission. If I may, I'd like to note that in the staff report, this was referred to as 27 projects instead of 26 projects, and this was due to a duplication of a project listed under 2 different descriptions. This was the Open Space Trails and Amenities Project, which was also listed as the Foothills Nature Preserve and the Ratsadero Preserve Trail Maintenance Project. So there's actually only 26. As we take a moment to review the list on this page and the next page, you'll see that there are going to be a few projects highlighted in green. These are projects not yet discussed with the Commission, but will be this evening. Projects not highlighted have previously been discussed with the Commission in a prior year or are recurring projects. So I'll take a moment here for you to review the list on this page and then move on to the next page with additional fiscal year 27 projects. Next slide, please. On this page here are the remaining another 13 of the 26 fiscal year projects. And should you have questions on these projects here, we can toggle back and forth later during the discussion. If you just, I'll just take a moment here for you to look at the list here. Okay, and as I mentioned, the projects that are listed in green, those are projects that, those projects that are highlighted in green are ones which the Commission has not reviewed yet, and I'll take a look at that with you with descriptions of each of those highlighted projects. Next slide, please. As we look at these projects here, please keep in mind the proposals are subject to change in budget and in scope, and sometimes the timeline of which fiscal year can change as well. The golf course net and turf replacement project is to remove and replace the elements within the driving range at the golf course. This project's scope and timing is dependent upon a second deck study and a ball trajectory study, which are anticipated to be completed in early spring. The project's current budget is $848,000. However, this is likely to be revised as this is an outdated estimate. Okay. Next, we have Hoover Park improvements. This provides for replacement of park amenities such as the playground, playfield backtops, tables and benches, drinking fountains, and trash receptacles. This project's budget is $1.4 million, and it will span multiple years. For fiscal year 2027, we have $200,000 earmarked for design work. Next slide. For the Mitchell Park Improvement Project, it's a large multi-year project with a budget of $2.7 million. And this park in particular is one that draws visitors regionally. So we have multiple improvements here. We have improvements planned to replace the play areas along East Meadow Drive. We also want to replace the water play feature. And it also covers site amenities such as surfacing and walkway structures. Along with these improvements, we also have, we'll be addressing turf and irrigation issue renovations there as well. And this project in particular, we moved up in its fiscal year planning. We moved it up to start in fiscal year 27, setting aside $400,000 for design work, and then it'll be followed with construction in a subsequent year. The reason we moved this project up is because further in the CIP plan, we have 2 other large park renovation projects as well. We have Rigonado Park, and also we have Johnson Park. so that we don't have multiple large-scale park renovations all concurrently occurring and having multiple overlap years. We've decided to move this Mitchell Park project, advance it as well. So, next slide, please. For park restroom installation, in the next few years, we're planning on several of them. Last year, you may recall that Mitchell Park restroom replacement was funded and is being worked on currently. In the current fiscal year, we also have a restroom that's being planned for Eleanor Pardee Park. And in the future, in fiscal year 2028, we're looking at doing public outreach and public engagement for exploring a park restroom at Johnson Park. Over the next 5 years, this project is slated to have funding of $1.9 million for park restroom installations. Okay. For Pierce Park, there will be renovation of the turf and irrigation system, as well as improvements to the playground surfacing and the dog park surfacing. For this project, we've budgeted $429,000. Next slide, please. Within the Ricanado Park is the Ricanado Pool Complex, and for that, the Ricanado Pool starting blocks will have replacement of the starting blocks, and that's a project budgeted at $126,000. For Robles Park, we have various replacements or repairs to playground areas, the basketball court, an adjacent concrete wall, and improvements to the fencing and pathways. For this project, we have a budget of $1 million. Next slide, please. And for the last of the highlighted fiscal year 27 projects, at Weary Park, we'll be replacing elements of the playground, the site amenities, and perimeter landscaping using a budget of $350,000. This includes the projects for fiscal year 2007. However, recognizing that the CIP plan is a living, rolling 5-year plan, I'd like to point out that there are 38 projects in the 5-year plan, as shown in the staff report. Next slide, please. This chart here was included in the staff report, and it reflects which projects are planned and its corresponding budget years. I'd like to also add that these are not the only capital projects that staff works on. For capital needs that arise but are not previously identified, we have budgets in recurring CIPs, which staff may use to address some of the system-wide needs that arise. We have funding in site amenities CIP and emergency repair CIP and court resurfacing CIP. So those are not specific to locations or sites. They're more general and broad. So as needs come up that we did not anticipate, we can use some funding from these CIPs to address those needs. It allows staff to proactively address wear and tear issues, safety issues, or unanticipated repair needs across the park system. I think in the past here, my colleague Sarah has shared some of these repairs that we've done and showcased them in our department report as well. This now concludes the presentation, and staff now welcomes an input discussion from the Commission on projects for fiscal years 2027 and/or priorities that we may not have fully reflected in the current CIP plan.
Thank you, and thank you for the very in-depth presentation and also the material that you previously provided us as well. So before we move to public comments, ask the commissioners if you have any clarifying questions that you need to ask. Clarifying, not general.
Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Commission, Vice Chair.
Yeah, thanks, Ramdo, for a great report and very comprehensive. Quick question. You listed some of the projects which has major capital budget, and some of them among the 26 is not in there. I'm curious about the details of Heritage Park site amenities replacement. How do we find out what are being replaced? And it's this year's budget.
So far, I would say about a majority of the work has already been completed. We've met with stakeholders, Friends of Palo Alto Parks. We have replaced slats for our benches. We currently have on order a new drinking fountain, as well as a Bear Saver or 3-sort. We've done upgrades to the landscaping areas. We're adding more mulch, and one larger component that we still is outstanding is adding in a drainage component, which has to do on kind of by the Roth Building or the Palo Alto Museum side. We're adding in that, updating the park sign, and we also have a gate that we're planning to have access to the new restroom. So those are the remaining kind of outstanding items, but a majority of the perimeter work, there's a showcase kind of tree and re-slurry that we've done already as part of that project. So a majority of that work has already been completed.
Maybe I should take a flight. I have a suggestion. I sort of floated around the idea of.
If it's not a clarifying.
Okay, next. Yeah, it's about this part. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Alxaray.
Thanks for the detailed report, really appreciate it. There's a lot of parks in the work item. I'm just curious, is the numerical order the order of precedence, or is it just hodgepodge, they're all equal?
No, I think most of those lists were done alphabetically, so it's not any particular order other than alphabetical.
Okay, you said we have probably capacity to only do a few in parallel. What's a reasonable target for us, or how many parks we can address in a given fiscal year?
There probably isn't a regular answer to your question. This varies because of the size of the projects. If there are projects, and I'll just use round dollar figures, projects that are $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, we could probably do 2 or 3 of those a year. However, the parks that were that I highlighted in the presentation was, Mitchell Park, 2.4, 2.7 million. Johnson's going to be a $2 million project, and then also Rinconada is going to be a $4 million project. And these are just very rough numbers. So when it comes to that project, it's a collaboration between, and primarily led by Public Works Engineering, in consultation with our department within Community Services, Division of Open Space, Parks and Golf. And those tend to be multi-year projects, and so it's difficult to really get much more done when we have such large projects such as that. So it could only be 1 or 2 projects, other projects that we get done in that year.
Gotcha. And when you break things down, seems to be a planning phase and the actual implementation. Can you just help with approximate timelines of how those play out?
Sure. Depending on the nature of the project, the park restrooms, I think we've all historically understood that that's taken a long time. So that can take from the design and planning stages, it could be several months, 3 months, perhaps 4 months. However, then it becomes a lead time with the manufacturer. We used to work with a 9-month lead time. Now it's been a year, more than a year.
Are you talking
for
about?
restrooms?
Yeah, for fabrication.
Fabrication of a year. So then that takes a long time. And then finally, once it's ready and delivered, site preparation, whether it's, the concrete padding, the plumbing, accessing the sewer line, that, and then planning to bring it in, that then takes another month or so. So that's a project that could span anywhere from a year and a half or more. In regards to park renovation projects, playground as such, if it's just simply a playground and not a lot of site amenities, then it would be a planning stage with design, and that could be a month. We then have to go to bidding.
And Lom, I think one clarification, just very high level, is typically design is in one fiscal year and construction is allocated for the following. So primarily, that's the way we do it in terms of sequencing. So when there's multiple projects, you can be doing construction with one of your projects and then also design for a different. So that may add a little bit of color to how we plan.
Yes, and then as for getting the project life cycle, as Sarah mentioned, there's the planning, and sometimes they're concurrent. But as for an individual project, it could take the design phase, and then after that, the design phase, there's the bidding phase, which takes about 2 to 3 months, and then issuing a contract from there, and then allowing the construction company to build. And that side of the project could be anywhere from 2 to 3 months to a year to get the work done.
Just to add on to that, if I remember the last presentation, I thought we had talked about trying to expand it a little bit more to have not only a kind of I know the timelines is a little bit difficult to put in because they can change, but like say, for instance, you're talking about a project going from 26 going into 27, 28, 29, when you're now talking about the design phase, which can take X number of months, then moving on to the next phase. I think having something like that, I think we talked about that last time, having something like that in the report might help the commission sort of make a decision, because you can sort of get a feel for what's going to maybe take place in the first part of that fiscal year versus going into the next year. Just something to think about, I think, for a future design of the report itself. And maybe even, because the way you have your list laid out, right, it's not necessarily in the order in which these things will happen. A lot of it depends on the resources that you're going to have available and so forth, right?
That's correct. There's multiple factors come into play as well.
So I think having that might help you with coming up with what we think would be the best that should be moved forward with before something else, I guess.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith.
And I'm not sure this is a proper question at this point or not, but why do we do bathrooms every other year?
It's a complicated answer. A lot of it comes down to funding resources. In addition to funding resources, the other thing is staff capacity and bandwidth to manage projects. To start with funding resources, the park restrooms CIP is mostly funded through development impact fees. It's not funded through the city's capital improvement fund, which is primarily backed by the general fund. So we have limited resources we don't have to tap into. It's dependent upon the pool of money from development impact fees. So we don't have enough to sufficiently fund every single year. And then the other part of that, as mentioned previously, is the bandwidth of staff to manage these projects.
I would like to visit about that at a proper time. Thank you.
Are there any speakers?
There are no speakers in person or online at this
I didn't
time.
get to ask my question.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Kleinhaus.
Thank you. So if I got the process right, it's planning, design, bidding, construction.
Yes, and one person that I didn't mention earlier, there's also the public outreach process, which
That was my question.
Yes,
So where
I'm sorry.
does that go in all of
precedes-
this?
Yeah, it's in the planning and the design.
Planning and design. Okay, we've had some public comment on several recent parks. One of them was plastic turf on the playgrounds at Boulware that people were not too happy with. And I received complaints about the loss of sand at Ramus when that was done, the improvements to the playgrounds were done. The sand was replaced with wood chips and plastic. And so people that had younger kids that like to kind of put the kid in the sand so he can play, and while another child uses the playground structures, they said, no, we can't come here anymore. We have to go to a different park. So I know I've had some conversations with Sarah about this, that people should know what the surfaces are, both what they're losing and what things are replaced. What are the things that are, so they have the opportunity to comment on the surface. And if they really want sand, then, then the sand should be there. And if they really don't want plastic turf, then they shouldn't have plastic turf in the areas. So I think that's really important to include in the public outreach section. So people will have the ability to do that. I don't know if now is the time to ask about specific projects, but I have a question about Mitchell. I can wait until you're done taking notes. So Mitchell Park is overlit late at night, way after, it's like at midnight you'd go there and it's glowing. And all these very large lighting fixtures that don't really abide by the Dark Sky Association shield the lights or the new ordinance that Palo Alto just passed. So I was wondering if that can be incorporated into the project, either removing some of them or keeping them all, but turning off anything that is not needed and only using the right kind of lights for pathways. I'm not even sure that we need lighting after the park closes. So I would like to see that addressed as part of the renovation of Mitchell Park. Often when we finish here very late and I drive by there and I see how it glows, it shouldn't.
Could be a safety issue too.
The parks are closed after 10, 11, so I'm not sure that there is
11
safety.
o'clock.
Okay, so, and lighting should be, lighting fixtures should abide by our ordinance if possible. So if there is a project there anyway that is going to be renovating a lot of other things, then the lighting should be part of it, in my opinion. So hopefully you can look into renovating the lighting so it comes to both the code that California has for construction and the city dark sky ordinance, if possible. Since I wouldn't say to do that if you weren't going to do a project there anyway, but since there is a pretty large project there, then I think that could be a part of that. And the other specific one, I can keep it for later, I guess, is the golf course net and turf replacement. I can talk about it in comments, though.
Yeah.
But this Mitchell Park improvements, I really think we need to include the lighting in it.
Well, I mean, those are things I would assume would come from the community outreach, right? As far as
Yeah, for a large project like Mitchell, there would be a pretty robust community outreach and engagement process, and that would require a PIO. So it would come back to the PRC for additional comment, and there'll be time to make, project-specific suggestions or comments at that time.
But we are asked to approve or to recommend all of these projects, right? As they are now.
but not into the details of what's going to be involved in that project. It's whether or not.
But the details are here. It tells us for Mitchell, here, list of things that are included. And lighting is not included, as far as I can tell.
That's correct.
Right.
So I think you're highlighting something where we're asking for feedback this evening and prioritizing priorities of projects. And so in terms of getting granular into every scope of detail. That project will specifically come back to the Parks and Rec Commission. I think really what we're looking for tonight is, do we need to tweak? Are we missing anything? Are there things that need to be more prioritized for this coming year that you're hearing in the community that perhaps staff has not heard? And, you know, even Lom calling out towards the end, you know, we're really trying to focus on project specifics. But if there are maybe smaller CIPs that can be incorporated through some of our ongoing recurring, because there is a need that perhaps you are seeing out in the community, maybe there's things we can address more immediately.
Right, so all of these items will eventually come back to the park, maybe not all, depends.
Correct,
Right.
correct.
And at that time is when we can make comments about whether or not something was left out or something that needs to be added, or to evaluate something further.
You know, I think that if we, you know, there is a budget here, and it includes specific things. This is going to go to the city council with that budget and this description. If lighting is not in here, it's not going to come and be introduced later. And in my opinion, this is the time to say it's missing here. And, you know, for the all the other park improvements, I think that giving enough information to the public will provide the public with the opportunity to say, well, you know, I like this surface and not that surface, you know, I want another slide, you know, the little detail. But this is not a small detail, and it can have implications for budgeting. So I don't think that bringing it up at the end of the process rather than the beginning would be helpful to you.
I think you bringing this up now is helpful.
Okay, thank you. So I have one more, and that's the turf and netting. And that's another project that there is a project timing dependent second deck study. So I don't know what that study is. We haven't seen it, have we? Okay.
Correct. It will, we plan on bringing back to that study to the commission this spring as well.
Okay. So as we know, and this is the subject of the emails that I received from some of the public, was the turf. People do not want to see plastic turf there, at least the ones that wrote to me. So that's something that I think needs to be cleared. And the other thing is something I mentioned before, which is the netting is proposed to be twice as tall and much closer to the road, to Embarcadero Road. And that is an impact to the Baylands. And so, in my opinion, a project like this should include the aesthetic barrier, trees essentially between the road and the netting that kind of masks this impact and contributes to the wildlife corridors and the things that we discussed with the urban forestry team. And so I think that this project needs to be modified. And I don't know how, when I look at all of these projects, I think I would rather see a change to the project. And I don't know how to do that. Should we separate this one from all the other projects in the motion and vote on this one separately? Because as is, I don't think I can vote for this.
I don't think we're voting tonight either.
Not voting, okay, that's easy. Good, thank you.
Yeah.
But I think we need to look at this and think about how do we make this a win-win so it provides what we need for the golf, but also for the corridor.
I think it would be good just to explain what you would want the commission to do. I think it's kind of like, I mean, you're giving us a list to look at it from the perspective of what items you've already proposed to, whether they're going to start in 2026, they're going to fill over to 2027. And there was two different categories of listings that you gave us. And you're asking for our input as to prioritize those particular items. And eventually, whatever projects are defined will eventually come back to the commission. I mean, there's a lot of different steps that will just lay out the steps so that everyone here understands kind of what the process is, and then what is it that you expect us to do for you tonight.
I think maybe something that might help guide the conversation is, Eric, if you can re-pull up slide 5. This, what I'm pulling up is the 26 department proposed for fiscal year 27. I think what may help guide the conversation is what we're highlighting are the items in green, so we can hang on slide 5 for a bit, is the golf course net and turf replacement, which is what Commissioner Kleinhaus was speaking to. And then if you advance to the next slide, all of these other project specific, so Hoover Park, that will be in design this coming year, in addition to Mitchell Park will be in design. So those will be having community outreach and engagement efforts. I can speak to the park restroom installation. Those are funded in previous years, but we will be going into construction for Mitchell, and then there will be design that will be starting for Eleanor and community engagement. Pierce Park is a rather smaller project. We will likely still be having, though, community engagement, especially for around that neighborhood. That project specifically is irrigation, some surface types. So speaking to Commissioner Kleinhaus, as she mentioned, we've had some conversations with our group as well as our Public Works Engineering team. And moving forward, we do plan to have a slide devoted to any surfacing. So at least when we do have community engagement and outreach, the surfacing will be a topic that will be discussed, and the community will be able to supply their feedback on what surfacing they would like. And then if we move on to the Rinconada Pool starting blocks, this is something that the CSD team will be working with our operator to execute on, and that we're hoping for not only design and construction in one fiscal year. The Robles Park improvements, we've already done design, and we've already done a community engagement. So the hope is maybe we need to reinvigorate, and because there was a delay since the last community engagement, but to re-engage with that group, make sure we're onboarding a new landscape architect who will be joining the city. We've been a year without that role, so this will be one of the first projects that they start working on. And then the Weary Park playground improvement is something that our team, it's a rather small, it's consistent with something that we previously did, like Cameron Park. So really small neighborhood park. But again, we will still be doing community outreach for that neighborhood. Does that help a little bit more?
Yeah, so that would actually, it's possible that some of these things could fall into an ad hoc or liaison for input. Like, I mean, for instance, if some of the parks that have been done, or the restrooms, came under a different ad hoc or liaison. So I guess when you're talking about it going to the community, it's still at what point does the commission get involved in the process? I mean, when do you come back and ask for our input before we get to the actual,
So
construction phase, I guess you could say?
So anytime, so you will be invited to the community meetings. We will supply you with that, so you're welcome to attend the community meetings as a member of the public and solicit your feedback in that way. Formally, as a commission, you will be weighing in on projects that have park improvement ordinances. So at that level and scale. Some of these other maintenance more items, it isn't something that we typically have you weigh in on. For example, like the Rinconada starting blocks, they're failing and they need replacement. Do you have any, did that answer your question?
Yeah, why don't we go? Well, let's go ahead and start at the end with Commissioner Ding.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. How do we determine the year of life for the park amenities?
I'm sorry, for clarification, the lifespan of a park amenity?
Yeah, lifespan.
There are various ways, and it depends on the type of material. So let's take a look at a playground, whether it is a wood structure or a steel structure. And then in addition to that, when we look at walkways, is it a concrete walkway, is it an asphalt walkway, or is it a decomposed granite walkway? So they each have different anticipated lifespans. Our public works team does have perhaps a catalog, is it right? Asset management software in which the assets are put in there, and depending on the type of asset and the material that it's made from, it then assigns it a lifespan.
I see. Thank you for answering that. One more question about the design phase. Is that like a third-party RFP process, or it's like under our department?
It varies. We work a lot with our public works engineering department. They have positions for a park architect, but however, Sarah has mentioned that it's been vacant for a year. So depending on who's available and how large of a project it is, we can either work with our colleagues in public works engineering to have them design it, or for like larger projects, sometimes it is outsourced design and even at times outsourced construction management. So it varies.
Good to know. Thanks.
Let me go back, Commissioner Kleinhaus.
I might have another one later, but I already talked a lot, so next.
Vice Chair. Wei.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for the great report. First, I want to really comment the whole CIP list really showed really great work. You balance safety, maintenance, long-term needs together. And also, the plan also reflects some catch-up from the past and also keep investments for Hill Dam and also the heavy capital projects like Mitchell Park. So I want to go back to slides 5 of the Heritage Park, which I was going to ask earlier. It's a question combined with suggestion. One is heard from community, as Sarah mentioned, also as a commissioner role in terms of park improvement kind of role. I'm wondering, since Heritage Park is already undergoing renovation, I want to gently ask whether there's opportunity to future-proof the site, have a very modest enhancement with our park architecture on board, something like a small raised platform with basic power audio plugins. It wouldn't be a formal stage, but something could support low-impact community programming like Shakespeare in the Park, school performance, senior dancing, cultural events, and without requiring temporary equipment, because it's a hub in the downtown area where, the museum's right to it, and across the street is the two museums, one next to it, the other's across the street. There's also Kids Park, Whole Foods. My intent is not to expand the scope of these upgrades, but explore whether incorporate this now, since construction's underway, might be more cost-effective. It's also heard from the community, two events I went to Mitchell Park. The MLK event's growing, Chinese New Year, it's a library event. The next one, which is overpacked in the last 5 years, is the Chinese New Year Street Fair. So they are overpacked. Both Adam talked to me, they should change venue, and there's local communities say it's just not, it's over capacity. So thinking of the cultural events as a whole in the downtown area with the new youth center opening and senior center right across to it, and so Heritage Park will be ideal location to have a small stage for cultural events, complementary to our Thursday music event on California Avenue. So I floated this to a couple city council members during the MLK event. They seem to be thinking this is not a bad idea, and it probably, would not cost a lot more to do that, and it could be very simple and reversible to enable creativity, then building a small infrastructure. And also in the current climate, I even hearing sermons in different churches about creativity as resistance, creativity of survival in the bigger climate, and without mental health challenges, this probably can be another outlet for them. And basically it's, possibility, a suggestion.
I can say that we, just this week, I've met, and last week, I've been having a lot of meetings at the Heritage Park, since we are kind of wrapping up the final site amenity portion. I have been having conversations with the Palo Alto Museum, and there are ways that we are integrating the museum and ensuring, because there's been requests to add more tree plantings, but making sure that the museum's thoughts and kind of ensuring that they want to have some movie nights, which expands out into the park, and they were thinking of having that against the building. So there are, we are collaborating, I will say. I'm not sure the site amenity program. I think there's some other, the funding we already have allocated to the specific CIP. However, that there is opportunities if moving forward we have those other capital ongoing reoccurring. If it's something that's needed, there is opportunity there throughout the year. But I think for the Heritage Park site amenities portion of it, we have all the funding. There's only roughly $100,000 left on the project because we've done a lot of that work already.
So how did you decide, I guess, on what amenities would go into that park? Would that do community engagement or? So
the site amenities is something that is an asset management and the span of the park. It was originally just a park that was going to be temporary. So some of these assets need to be updated. So it was based on staff. We have inspectors that also inspect all of our locations. And so these then are built into the plan. And throughout the years, they either depending on when we get the funding and the prioritization of the need, that's why.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like there are a lot of things that should be getting, I guess, input from the public and have the commission involved in those. And it seems like, I mean, we're sort of there, but not there, I guess you're just saying.
I think just to also highlight why we're not specifically talking about Heritage Park is because this was funded in, I believe, actually initially fiscal year '25, so not even this year. It has spanned over 2 years, and therefore this is coming to an end. So we're rolling it over because we don't believe the work will all be completed, but that's why we don't want to take the amount of time this evening. We've tried to highlight the items where we're seeking your input the most, because those projects you have not heard and we have not started.
Okay, all right, let's move on. Go
Can
ahead.
I just, last comment? Yeah, so I don't have a ballpark number for what I'm trying to look into, and I want to see, do you need me advocate to the city council? And I think it might be 35K for that kind of small, I don't want to be an, big renovation, just incremental, small item. So, and we can also talk offline, the possibility. What you mentioned about the Palo Alto Museum with the outdoor movie theater could be something, just extension, because they're right next to each other on the same side, right? So, yeah, we can take offline, look into that piece. You're already starting having conversation, maybe extend from that. So the cost could be coming down from 35K to 3K. Thank you. And I really like the clarification you did with all the green highlights projects as well. Thanks so much, Sarah.
Commissioner Smith?
I've waited 62 years to get a bathroom at the park, Eleanor Park, because I moved here in that time. That's a real disservice to our community, because we're a rich community, and that's something that people enjoy a lot. This thing of having every other year for a bathroom makes no sense to me. And I think we can take a real hard look at that, because I'm convinced that we can have a public-private partnerships to move this stuff along, and there's money in town, there's expertise in town, and so I would really encourage us to say, let's do a bathroom every year, and just to serve our public, and I personally would be happy to be very involved in that. And the word I get from some of the people running the city, that the public-private partnerships, we have a lot of money in town. We even have some billionaires now that are opening their pocketbooks. But we did that on Heritage Park. We did that on Magical Bridge, downtown Lytton Plaza. And so that's available, because you all only have so much staff time. And but everything doesn't have to be invented here. I mean, we can take a look. So I would very much like us to push for that. Thank you.
Commissioner Alcaraz.
Thank you. So one thing that would help with prioritization, especially across the parks and playgrounds, is if you could surface some of the information that is probably in the asset management system. Like, I could not figure out when the last renovation is for each kind of park or playground. And, given, like Commissioner Deng said, we have about a 10-year lifespan on these on average. And just to see which ones are included and which ones are not included, so we can see, by lifespan, by neighborhood, then we can actually give you probably some better feedback as, do these priorities really make sense? And given that we can do, sounds like there's a certain budget of actions we can take. If that's the kind of feedback you like, I'm happy to provide that back after the fact, because it's not available here. But I think having at least the ages of each of the facilities would be great.
I'll make just a comment on the asset management in general, and there is, internal conversations going on about the need to improve our asset management across the board and have better quantification of life cycles, better inventory of all of our assets, from furnishings to courts to fields to lightings and fixtures, and be able to prioritize within that matrix so we can budget accordingly. Typically, assets will have anywhere from 5-year to 20-year life cycle, depending on what we're talking about. And so it's crucial. I mean, it's a great comment because that'll help us in the future if we can incorporate software to help us plan. We can better streamline and better report out the needs, in terms of where things are in their life cycle and, how we're looking to prioritize. And you can see it in a better way, in a more comprehensive way. So that is something we're looking at. We're, working with our data people who we have a program called Maintenance Connection in the city that we're looking to explore, and there are other asset management programs out there that are specifically designed for parks. We're discussing doing parks conditions assessments to go out and re-inventory and look at the conditions of all of our assets to get a new baseline, because that hasn't really been done in a long time. So that'll really help, and that's an initiative that will kind of help feed into the CIP program in the future.
That's great to hear. And if you are looking at new options, if you could just get that information out to the public, because these are public resources, great to just either have them in a sheet or even at the parks sites, you can go to each one and say, oh, last renovation was this, when last time the bathroom was redone that. Like I said, you don't have to ask you every time around this. Thank you.
I think the other piece, the other of this would be kind of knowing how much of the projects that you're presenting to us, how much of those have already been, I mean, how much of a percentage have those already been accomplished, I guess. And that would kind of give us a feel as to, because some of these things are already in progress, correct? From previous years, and then there are other things that can take 3 to 4 years, but I think knowing how much progress has started, but that comes into play what we were talking about earlier as far as, having a timeline. Because there's some things on here that I was going through that, the list of the different projects, like for instance, the Baylands levee repair for public safety access. So anything of that nature should be a higher priority than some other amenity, because you do have limitations on the resources that are available to you. And each one of these projects are going to require some staff input. So I would think that anything that talks about safety issues, that's even going back to playgrounds, for instance, where you're updating, you have equipment that is old, someone gets injured on it, and it's been deferred from, for 3 or 4 years, then that means that there's a risk to the city of being sued because, a piece of equipment breaks while there's a kid on it. So I think hopefully you're looking at these from a perspective of safety, and the longer something goes without being repaired, the more it's going to cost in the long run as well. The other one that caught my attention was the Foothills Nature Preserve dam seepage investigation and repairs. That's one that's been, I guess, that's been like a can being kicked down the road since 2012, and you're saying that, the potential there is that if we have a major flood, that's something that's going to impact. So I don't know is that kind of how when you're looking at prioritizing the different projects, I would think that safety would be top of mind than, something else that might be a nice to have.
Yes, so we always evaluate safety, and those are the ones we tackle first. And just for the Foothills Nature Preserve dam seepage investigation, a weir has been installed, and therefore we're monitoring that. And so progress is being made. We haven't not been executing on our capital plan, but we are moving it along, and it has to now be studied. So that's part of the investigation.
Okay. So what else where do we go from here? What do you need from us? I guess take this to the next step.
I think we've heard across the commission, in particulars about specific projects that we can take back and discuss amongst ourselves and with our colleagues. As mentioned, these projects are to be proposed. Their scopes are always subject to change. It depends on several factors, budget availability, community input, commission input. So I think, collectively, we value what we've heard today, and we'll go back and, speak to our colleagues and find out what can be made changes and what cannot, and go on from there.
I do have one last question. I know given your staff bandwidth, and you've highlighted some projects there as well, which ones do you think pose the greatest delivery of a schedule risk of all the projects that you've listed, I guess?
It's a good question.
Yeah, I think you may have stumped us. Delivery delay. I think I would just state things that wait on other things. So, I think.
Just trying to think through that, because that is something that I think you do. There's only so many things you can do in a day, and there's only so many things you can do with the resources that you have. And so you've got a lot of, when I'm reading through the major the document that you associated with this, there's a lot of things that keeps getting pushed off further and further down the line. And same thing that, when we had this discussion last year, there were some of the same projects on this list. So.
Well, I can speak to that. I think it is a very ambitious list. We also are coming out of COVID, where we had a lot of delays, and we, full disclosure, are playing catch up. So that we have had the heaviest workload. They warned me when I started over 2 years ago that we are jumping into the busiest time of capital improvement projects. So we are busy. We are very, very busy. I think as we've also had a lot of staff turnover within our division specifically, and now that we are now fully staffed, I think you will be seeing a lot of these projects get carried to the finish line. I think we are very action-oriented, and we are already making big strides. And I can say I'm proud of the list that we have been accomplishing, and will continue to do that. But I think, to your point, it starts with a manageable list, and that's also why some of the reprioritizing on what needs to be adjusted. Initially, we had Johnson Park that was up higher. We've deferred that and done a portion of the project that was the safety risk. and address that already this fiscal year. So that was presented to you within the departmental report in a previous meeting, but I think that's how we're trying to tackle is what can we get done, and also let's also be ambitious.
Right.
So enough where you will see rollover, but the intent is there, and we're chipping away at this list.
Thank you. Commissioner Kleinhouse, I think you had another question.
I had a comment, and I know this is not something you want to do, but I was going to add one. Not for necessarily immediate future, but it would be nice to have it here. And that's removing obsolete infrastructure, especially the ITT area with all these antennas that are still there, derelict antennas. There are other places where there's too much concrete that was laid for some reason at some point, but is not needed anymore. So I think like removing some of those old infrastructures that are not used anymore would be good, especially on the ITT project. And like I said, I don't expect that to get a really high priority right now, but it would be good to have it on the list.
Just a quick comment, I really want to echo what Chair said about priority. You have 26 projects for year 2026 to do its huge ambitious plan, and also prioritize the safety projects first. I do agree to that, and really want to hope to see you can pull this off. It's not easy list. Thank you, and thanks for the great work.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation and the information. So we're looking, and we're here to work with you and help in any way we can. So I think having, as we go to our retreat and think, this would be a good document to look at, and what can we add to our work plan? What ad hocs can we put in place that might help, move some of these things down the road? This is probably a good opportunity to kind of integrate that into our retreat and looking at what our priorities are that are going to be sort of aligned with those of the city council, and then working this into our work plan and building the ad hocs and liaisons that will come as a result of that. So thank you for presenting this information to us.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Commission, for your feedback. Appreciate it. If I may also thank my colleagues, Sarah Rostelli and Eric Vidal, for a lot of the legwork and a lot of the input for both the staff report and the presentation deck, and then also input from Ben as well. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to the last item on our list is okay.
Is it, my computer just died. So
Of course.
the items, are you talking about what we have on upcoming agenda
Yes.
items? Okay, I have those handy. Coverly is an update for February. We also have the Youth Council, and there was one other. Oh,
pickleball.
pickleball. Yeah, how can I forget?
You could, but don't.
Yeah. So, and I know, I would also, just a reminder, your retreat is on the calendar for Friday, February 13th at Mitchell Park. I think these weeks will come fast. We'll be seeing a lot of each other. As a reminder, we will be also having staff norms and a Brown Act training that couple with the retreat. And so get ready. We will have some snacks and coffee to make sure everyone's prepared. And then I believe in March, do you want to hear March updates, or should we hold
No, I
off.
think along with the retreats, the fact that we still have to complete the
Homework assignment.
homework assignments, which are due
This
on
Friday.
This Friday. So if you have not
Yes.
met with your
Ad hoc
ad
or
hocs and liaisons,
liaison.
it's time to, you've had 3 days to
Yeah.
do that, so.
If you need more time, just let me know. But yes, thank you. Great reminder.
Okay, go ahead and move on to March.
March, a few things that we have, if I can remember them all, are, I believe, open space report. We also have a San Antonio area plan, and
March, the Coverly update.
Coverly we get in February. And we have one other item, and I'm free.
We'll cover it.
Yeah,
That's okay. All right, with that being said, we're adjourned. Thank you.
okay.